Hi, it's Mike Kelleher. I'm going to share with you today's a video that will show you a way to kind of leverage the open source nature of our Planscan Romexis system. As everyone I'm sure knows, we're able to freely export STL files from the Romexis software, which allows us to do a lot of interesting things. And one of those is an ability to export files to a laboratory for fabrication of a milled abutment for implants. And we can utilize Scanbodies, which are essentially replacements for transfer copings that you use in a physical impression, to send that data to the laboratory and allow them to pull that into their software for fabrication of these abutments. And it's my favorite way to do implant restorations. I've always used a custom milled abutment. I like the ability to control emergence profile and the cement margin so that we get an ideal implant restoration. So we'll show you a couple quick, easy steps that will allow you to use your Planscan and Romexis software to do that very thing and then fabricate the restoration in the office. So hopefully you get some nice tips out of this and be able to start doing these restorations in office yourself.
So the first thing you'll need to get started are the Scanbodies themselves, and what you'll see when you order these is a Scanbody like this. It has a little angle on the top that helps locate that implant in space for the computer software. And of course, there's a screw that comes with it to screw it down, and what we're seeing here is a Noble Replace Select Scanbody, although these are available for all the major manufacturers, pretty much everybody. The surface texture on this is kind of sandblasted, so it scans in very easily, no need for accent or anything like that. The Planscan will pick it up without any trouble at all. And you can see how it's very nicely machined. They fit down to the parts very well. This is mounted onto a Noble BioCare implant analog, and you can see that fits very, very well. No gaps, no nothing. That they fit very well, machined very nicely. And these are available from 5 Access Dental. You can give them a call, and they can get these sent out to you so you can start scanning. Okay, so now we're going to start scanning. We'll start with a preoperative scan of the case with the healing abutment still in place. You use Time Saver to erase that healing abutment. The reason you'll start with that pre-op scan, it makes it a little easier to get those proximal contacts. Then we're just going to simply scan that Scanbody into the model, and you can see that scanned in pretty nicely. The key area we want to look for here is that angle part of the Scanbody. So when you orient the Scanbody, try to get that as buccal as possible so that it makes it easy to pick that up. If you miss little proximal points in there, that's not a real big deal. You are going to have some spots you probably will miss. You want to just get the bulk of that thing scanned in and make sure you have all the data. And we're going to be sending along an opposing and a buccal bite to the laboratory. So we're going to use the DDX export part of Romexis to send this off to the laboratory. We have a couple options on how to export models in Romexis. The one we're going to use here, though, is DDX. That's what interfaces with the laboratory. So click on the case and then on DDX export, and we'll see we have a couple options as to the types of models we can send. STLs, which we're going to use in this case, or we can send IceView models, or we can send the full CAD case out to the lab as well. But for this one, we just need the STLs. So we click on Create New Case, and that's going to bring us over to the DDX portal online. And we're going to select the laboratory, in this case 5 Access. And then we can fill out the online laboratory prescription and put in the typical things. When's the case due back, patient name, all that sort of thing. We're also going to put in, because it's an implant abutment, the type of implant it is, the platform, the size, what kind of tissue support we want. And also very important for me is where do we want that margin to be. So on the right-hand side, you can see we can change, let the laboratory know where we want that margin to be. In my case, I tend to like these to be about a 0.5 millimeter subgingival on the buccal and on the interproximals, and on the lingual I may go either equigingival or just a little bit supragingival. And the idea here is we want to create an ideal emergence profile with this implant abutment and leave us in a situation where we can have a cemented crown that's very, very easy to clean the cement up. We don't want to have deep subgingival margins that make that more difficult. So that's how we kind of get around that issue, is we can kind of control that margin by having it milled precisely to where we want it to be. Then we're going to click Submit Case, and it'll bring us back to the summary page. On the summary page, we can just double check that everything is what we had wanted it to be. If not, we can go back and edit it. But everything looks fine here, so we're going to go back over into Romexis, and we're going to now upload. What will happen is your patient's name will pop up in that list of patient names at the top, which I've got covered up with the little blue box for HIPAA reasons. But we can click on that patient that we want to add the files to, and then we'll go down to the bottom, and you can see those 4 files. In this case, it's the opposing, the buccal bite, the pre-op, and the prep side are there. And we can just kind of click on those files and add those to the patient, and they will start to upload. And you'll see a little progress bar. That red progress bar gets started, and that's going to indicate that those cases or those scans are heading up to the laboratory. And the nice thing with doing it this way is we only have to worry about shipping cases one way. These will be to the laboratory in a few minutes. They can pull them into their software fairly quickly. No wait for a couple days for these things to go through the FedEx or UPS or whatever in order to get to the laboratory. So it speeds the process up with just the one-way shipping. So handy way to use our DDX export feature in Romexis. So once the laboratory has the case in their software, they'll design that implant abutment for you, and they'll actually send you some screenshots of what they're proposing that abutment to look like. And they'll share those with you via email, and you can take a peek at it and decide if this is how you'd like that abutment shaped. Communicate with the technician if there's any changes you'd like to have made to it. But a really good way to get a preview of what's going to happen here. And again, this is going to be a milled titanium abutment. They can make zirconia as well. And this is what we get back, is a nice milled titanium abutment. You can see screw, and this is exactly how the design looked. They're also going to send you back a printed model, and I have an aluminum analog built into this here. The aluminum analog makes it a little easier to scan the margins and make a really precise digital model of what's going on. And what I've done is I've sandblasted that aluminum analog. It makes that a little easier to scan. It's a little shiny when we first get it back from the laboratory. But you just scan that in just as if it was a regular model that you were doing a case from. And from there, really, it's no different than designing a regular crown case, because that margin is pretty close to what you'd expect for an ideal crown preparation. We go ahead and we just design the case as if this was a regular crown. The difference is here, though, I will change my margin gap on this to 0.04 axially, and I'm also going to change my margin ramp to 0.5. Those are very, very important to make sure you change those, because this is such an ideal preparation. Essentially, you want to make sure to tighten those two factors up so that you get a really, really good fit. But 0.04 axially and a 0.5 margin ramp will give you a really nice fit with these guys. You don't need to worry about the occlusal die spacer setting, because that's where the screw hole axis is. It's not going to affect anything. So I've just gone through and I'm just doing my regular design. I've done the proposal. I've resized the proposal using Alton arrows and then dropped it into place. And basically just going to use rubber tooth here to kind of modify this out till I get a really nice proposal here. Very, very simple. And again, nothing any different than what you would do with a regular crown. And I've sped this up a little bit. This is not at regular speed, but it still is a fairly quick process to go ahead and make these. So not a very different thing than what you would do if you had a regular old tooth crown preparation here. And then we're going to go ahead and mill it. Again, we're going to use an LT block with this to mask out the titanium, and we get a nice result. I mean, this is kind of a typical LT Emax looking crown here. Nothing too fancy, but your typical case here. You can see how beautifully the Emax is fitting down to that abutment, and we have a nice polished tissue surface on that abutment. The tissue is going to be really happy there. And radiographically, we look at this, and again, our emergence profile has been created with that implant abutment. We're going to get a very, very nice tissue response there. We don't have any cement to clean up. And final result, we have very typical Emax crown here. Patient's very happy with this. We're going to end up with a good monolithic restoration here that should last the patient a lot of years. So hopefully everybody finds this helpful and be able to get off and start scanning some scan bodies for your own cases.